Um, would you like to talk about the Mothman now?
Yes, absolutely. So, when I said I spent an embarrassing amount of time fawning over the Mothman, I mean literally right when you load the game. It doesn't start, you have to do character creation first, right? Who leads that? A Mothman.
Hi, welcome to the podcast. I'm Joycelyn, your player one, and today we've got a player two that you know already. Nikole, care to say hi?
Um, I would, but I am a traditionalist, and I know what's happened in the podcast, uh, with the previous collaborations. So, no, thank you.
Oh my goodness. I feel like I have the same reaction every time someone does that.
Yeah, it's just, it feels like it's become ingrained into the podcast, you know? I can't possibly touch a thing.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, everyone should already know you.
Okay, maybe I probably should do an introduction. I mean, you do have a fair point considering how long the podcast has been running, like since I left. But hi, I'm Nikole, and I actually used to be a host on the podcast too, but I left for school reasons and work reasons.
Today, in the house, we've got Cryptid Crush by Drowsy Drake Studios. It's a visual novel tabletop role-playing game, and the short premise of the game is haunted, cursed, single. You arrive in the seaside town of Long Hope, surrounded by monsters of urban myth, including your Mothman best friend Atlas and Jamie, the wingless Jersey Devil. Test your luck in love and life as you form bonds with the
Denizens?
denizens, living dead and demonic of Long Hope. And there is a content warning for the game for potential eye strain. The game is free. It's available on itch.io for Mac, Windows, Linux, and Android. I think, can you play this game on mobile? Like, if it's available for Android?
I would believe so, and I think it says some people in the comment forums had also talked about the experience on mobile, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah. How long did it take you to play?
It took me literally 3 hours from 11:30 until whatever time I ended. But granted, that included the time I took to write notes, and I wrote a lot, as well as grab food. And there was like an embarrassing amount of time spent fangirling over the characters that popped up.
I played for longer than you. I played for 3 hours and like almost 30 minutes. I mean, I think I only played for that long because I had to go back because my game crashed twice. Like after I got through chapter 0, my game started crashing. But I mean, it wasn't that bad. Like I could just like, cuz there were buttons to like skip past stuff that I had already done. So it wasn't really that bad, but it took me a little bit longer than I would have liked, you know?
So I imagine if like your computer didn't crash, then it probably would have taken much less time. Because what I had believed was like if I didn't, like flounder around as much, or if I like took my notes after the game, like my guess was that it would have taken probably no more than 2 hours on the default difficulty. But I can't say much about the other difficulties.
Yeah, I chose easy. I completely forgot the difficulties. Thank you for reminding me. But yeah, I chose easy difficulty because I was like, I don't know how to play this game, so I didn't want to make it hard. But I think maybe, I don't know, the chapter 0 took me 2 hours, so it might not have taken me, like maybe I was just getting the hang of the game, and that's what took me so long. And then I don't know. Maybe it would have taken like 30 minutes for the second chapter. I'm not sure.
I think getting hang of the game is something worth mentioning because one of the categories for this is tabletop RPG. And what helped me get through this pretty easily, especially with combat, is that I'm already familiar with D&D and with so that makes me somewhat familiar with tabletop RPGs in general. So that's why I was able to understand the combat system pretty well. And that really helped me get through the game, even like on the default difficulty.
I think maybe I skipped like through the parts where they explain the game because I wanted to get to the game.
Dude, I'm gonna be honest. That's one of the things that's the most important. And I think I explicitly told you to go and read through that so that we could play D&D later.
Yeah, well,
are you telling me when we do a campaign, I'm gonna have to explain everything the way Atlas does?
Please don't do it the way Atlas does.
But the way he did it was cool. I like the way that they introduced I thought the way that they introduced the mechanics for the game was pretty smooth, like when they wrote it in. Because it seems Atlas is canonically an absolute dork. Complete nerd. So it makes so much sense for the narrative to have a little shift as combat is beginning to make it so that Atlas is the one who explains, despite Atlas technically being one of the enemies you fight.
Yeah, I think that is a good part of the game though, like that they were able to do that. Because like most people, I think probably wouldn't know how to play like this type of game.
Yeah. In my opinion, for the combat system, so my opinion's probably not going to hold as much weight because I'm already familiar with tabletop roleplay game combat. But I found the mechanics and like the dice roll mechanics outside of combat and within combat to be like pretty easy to understand. And I really like the system overall. They're like every factor, every aspect of the combat, it felt very relevant to learn and something that you really had to think about. So everything that I learned from stamina to karma, it's not something that I would forget about. They never introduced anything unnecessary. So I thought that was very good because like even though it was complex, it wasn't cluttered in my opinion.
Yeah. And I mean, I got the hang of it like kind of quickly, I guess, considering I didn't know anything about tabletop RPGs and like I didn't listen to Atlas.
You did pretty good for someone who basically ignored the entire guide on the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think I did well. I think it was okay, I guess. It was pretty easy. It wasn't that bad.
Maybe you also were on easy difficulty.
That's true. I wonder if it's even possible for me to... Well, it might be. Because, like, at the end of the combat, you get, like, a score, right? You get, like, a grade.
Yeah. What grades did you get? I consistently ended up with a rank S for mine. Even though, like, I actually find the default difficulty to be somewhat forgiving, which is great, thank God, because during the gameplay, and this is actually a part that I didn't like, but during the game, after your first battle is done, you get to select a new pair of dice. And I wound up not liking the pair that I selected, and it made combat more difficult because I chose the snake eye dice, which meant after like my first roll, every single dice roll I got was ones, all ones, not ones, and that really screwed me over in combat a lot.
Wait, what?
Yeah, because that's how the snake eye dice works, and I didn't know how to change my dice actually when I went into the menu, and it wasn't like in the in-game menu that you click while you're playing, you can't find any setting for that. And I didn't find out till after I finished the 3-hour game or the 3-hour playthrough that you have to go to the starting menu in order to do that. And that's one of the problems I had with the game, actually.
Wait, you can change it?
That's what I'm saying.
I was reading the comments after I had like finished the game because I also had the same issue. I chose the like it wasn't even the dice anymore. It was like a coin. I don't remember which one it was, but it was a coin. So every time it was 50-50 and it was a coin flip, which I didn't dislike, but it was harder because you got less karma and it was a coin flip every time. So like half the time I was failing when before it was a like dice roll, you know? And I wanted to change it, but I didn't know how. And then I read the comments after I finished, and most like some of the people were like complaining about that, but like no one ever responded and said that you could change it. So I just thought you couldn't change it this entire time.
What I found out about how you could change it, I wouldn't have found out until the dev commented about it, because no one found out until it was put in the forum. And so that is one of my biggest problems, is that people could go through this entire game without knowing, because right now the gameplay, like, it would take 2 to 3 hours, maybe 4, but there are people who could just sit through all of that like pretty easily, because this game is easy to like sit in and play through because it's really fun. And so it's hard for people to find out that like you have to leave the game and go to the main menu to change your dice. And as pointed out in the comments too, when people load a save file, like when people do leave and they come back to load a save file, they might just go straight from options, because the word start could get people to think it means to start a new game. So what I would probably suggest is either moving that change dice option to the in-game menu that can access as you're playing the visual novel, or perhaps when you choose your new dice after that first battle, have some dialogue that explains to the player how you can change your dice. Because I don't think it was great for me to go through the entire game with dice that I actually did not like, and then find out that I could have had a different pair the entire time.
I feel like also when you chose the dice, it was like you chose a dice and then it gave you the description after you had already chosen it, right? So like you couldn't really go back from there. Or like you could go back, but like it was like you would have had to go out of your way to choose a new dice from that point. Like I feel like it should have explained what the dice were before you had to choose.
Yeah, like because I mean, so while it might technically be somewhat less steps, it's like an unnatural step to take, to have to go back. And that's why I never bothered to go back, because I was like, well, I don't want to have to go back to read all the other ones and continuously click the back button over and over again. I just want to click each different button, read, and then select.
Right.
Yeah, so that is just, pretty sure that's like my only problem with the like gameplay style. But yeah, that is like a big discrepancy that I found, that like while it didn't severely hinder combat, because I found the default difficulty to be somewhat forgiving, and the snake eye dice, they were kind of balanced out with getting heavy karma, but like, you know, either way, I still had to go through with dice I didn't like, and I didn't like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think I got lucky with the dice that I picked, because my dice, since it was 50-50, and like your character is able to give you more karma, it worked out for me. But like I feel like I would have been really upset if I ended up with dice that I didn't like, and then I had to continue the game that way.
Yeah, it also like makes it hard for people to like, because like say you want to explore the different dice options, well, how can you do that within your gameplay if you don't know that you could change it? Because there are multiple battles in the game. You could have done a different dice per battle. And it's not even just battles either. There's also investigation checks, stealth checks, lying checks. Those dice are the same kind of dice that you use in the combat. So for people that want to go and explore the different kinds of dice that you could use throughout the game, it's going to be hard to do that if you don't know that you could change your dice at all. So it feels like there should be a point to make it known, as well as a point in like making it easier for the players to go and learn about what each kind of dice are.
Yeah. Would you like to talk about the Mothman now?
Yes, absolutely. So, when I said I spent an embarrassing amount of time fawning over the Mothman, I mean literally right when you load the game. It doesn't start, you have to do character creation first, right? Who leads that? A Mothman. He's not named, but I believe his name is Atticus, related to Atlas.
Isn't it the Mothman?
So, it's explained in the game that they're a species. It's not like a singular Mothman that exists, they are a species. So, Atlas is a Mothman, his father is the Mothman. And I haven't checked. Actually, I believe Atticus could be his brother, considering he refers to him by first name. But, okay, brother or dad. Yo, Atticus was so fine.
Okay.
Hear me out. Okay. He goes on screen, and then you hear his voice. And I've got to say, the voice acting is amazing for the characters. And also for Atticus, is like, okay, I'm 5 minutes into the game, and I literally am giggling and kicking my feet.
Okay.
And Joycelyn knows this, because I texted her endlessly going, oh my god, the Mothman, he's so fine, he's absolutely sexy, dude, look at him, and my phone wouldn't send the photos. I'm so mad. He's absolutely fine. He's so fine. And you know what's funny? Joycelyn, what are you afraid of?
I'm afraid, well, you know this. I'm afraid of butterflies. I'm also afraid of moths.
Yeah, so it's, I mean, I guess it worked out, but at the same time, I feel like more people should see him and hear him. And I think the visuals for this game overall were amazing. Not, of course, not just the Mothman. I mean, overall. Because I really like the art style. The colors are bright, the lines are clean. I think all the character designs are done really well, especially for the Mothman.
Okay. Well, I also like the character design. I feel like I enjoyed all of the character design, even the Mothman. Even though I'm afraid of moths. Like, I feel like it was still really cool.
Yeah. What I liked a lot, it was something I noticed. I noticed a lot of representation in different body types. And this stood out to me because in previous visual novels that I played, a lot of the characters have the same exact body type across the entire like gender spectrum. So like all the same body type, all the men had the same exact body type. And this visual novel actually shows a really good variety in the bodies of the people. And I really like that.
Yeah. Did you have any other characters that you liked other than the Mothman in this game?
I'll be honest, I found every single love interest to be very attractive. One of the notes I initially wrote, like, when I first met Jamie, I was like, I literally wrote in my notes, uh-oh, Jamie's hot. So who do I choose now? Atlas or Jamie? Because I'm an idiot. And I'm intensely shallow.
Which ones are the interests?
So from what I could gather, based on like context clues, so I would assume that the people on the title card, so like say August, Atlas, Jamie, and Madhouse Mike would be love interests. And then I have a feeling that as the game goes on, we could be introduced to more. But of all the love interests, who are you interested in so far? I imagine Atlas is not one of them.
No. Jamie, and I guess August. I feel like this is kind of incriminating that I like August though, because I didn't like August in the beginning, and then I found out that he had a child.
So what I'm gathering is,
and we don't have to look into that anymore. All I'll say is that the
man with the kid is hot.
Okay, so the last game for this month is Dream Daddy, and I don't want anyone to look into this further. And we don't have to talk about it.
I would like to request as the guest host that everyone in the comments please question this.
No.
Severely.
Please don't.
If she doesn't want me to question it here, I think I need someone to question it too. Somewhere else.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. To be
Was
fair, I think I was set up to like August though because he's a werewolf.
oh that hey guys, can you look into that too?
No. Hey, Nikole. So about the mothman.
Oh yeah, the mom. He's exactly my type actually. My type is I'm very attracted. You're slick, don't you? You really think you're slick. But joke's on you. I like talking about the Mothman more than I like talking about, I guess, Delphs or furries. So yeah, I like how the characters are written, all of them actually. So, because what drew me to the Mothman, besides, well, Mothman, like, and his design, and like, because I previously thought the Mothman as one of my favorite cryptids because of listening to a podcast about cryptids and everything. But what really like drew me in was the personality. And oh god, I know how pretentious that sounds, but no, it's because all of these characters are actually really well written in my opinion. I really
Yeah.
like how Atlas was written. Oh, and the voice acting too. Their personality really shines through. So I found each of them having distinct personalities, and when they speak and stuff, like when they speak, when they emote, and like I hear their voices, none of it's cringy. For some reason, I was like anticipating like I'm a little cynical, so I did anticipate like because with the voice acting, I found it to be super expressive from the get go. So it was like, oh, what if they take this in the direction where it's so expressive that it's cringy and theatrical? I'm not saying
Yeah.
theatrical is inherently cringy, but
Just
I
like
mean,
exaggerated.
yeah, so exaggerated that it's unnatural and weird and like, oh, no one talks like that. But no, the dialogue in this is, even though it's actually very funny, they have so many witty moments that literally made me laugh out loud. None of it felt unnatural in my opinion, and none of it stuck out to me as like, oh, ew. None of it gave me the ick, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So him being an absolute dork, and then that being verbal, that was great. The voice actors did an amazing job with capturing their personalities without sounding, well, lame.
I feel like I really liked all of the characters, like even the ones that aren't dateables. I kind of wish we knew which ones were dateables though, like going in. Cause like I don't know. Like I feel like it would just be easier that way
Yeah,
if we knew.
I feel like the game makes you guess a little bit, especially because there's no explicit in the game that's available right now. There is no or very few explicit moments that you would have, like you would expect in an Otome game. So like, you know, you're like alone with them and stuff like that. Like it's a moment. It's not even like, you know, supposed to drive the main plot. It's like your relationship. We did
Yeah.
have one of those moments with Madhouse Mike. So that's very evident. That's like clear evidence that he is a love interest. And my guesses, honestly, are just like when you interact with characters, if it gives you an option to choose, like they could like choose between two options. That's like the system I went with. If I have to select between two options, then you know, maybe they're dateable, I guess. It's not a
Yeah,
good system.
maybe. I don't know, cause I feel like I wrote down that the game kind of went slow, but from the perspective of I'm playing like a dating simulator, you know?
I think
But
there's
I know it's not technically a dating simulator, and like the dating part is like
secondary.
secondary.
Actually, probably
but
tertiary, right? Would you
Yeah,
say?
because like it's not the main part of the game, but then like also it's very story driven, which isn't bad, but it has like moments for me where it was like, okay, can we like hurry this up type of thing. But
What?
also the game isn't finished, so it may just be that too,
Yeah,
where just like all of the content was kind of focused on the RPG part and not the dating sim part. And so for me it kind of like it ended and I was like, oh, I want to keep playing because we didn't get to the dating sim part of the game, you know?
yeah. I believe it could be like an because it's an early development. Because so far the chapters available are literally called like 0 and 1. So
Right.
there's like 2 playable chapters available. One of them kind of being a bit of a prologue. So I guess it is kind of early in the game. Um, but I did end up unsatisfied too because this is called Cryptid Crush. And
Right.
I explicitly went into this game going Mothman, date with Mothman, and then it didn't happen.
Yeah. But like, I mean, all the game was good. It
Yeah,
just it kind of let me down in the dating part of the game,
yeah.
you know?
At least this, because if we consider this as like, if we think about it when it becomes the full-fledged game, then I think it would make sense for it to be a little slower at the start, like how it is now. But I guess because of how we are reviewing how it is now, though.
Yeah.
So even though it is gonna work out in the future, realistically, right now, I guess like it's kind of feeling like being a little left tongue dry because I really liked having those moments alone where you could get closer to the characters. Like one of the things I really liked about the writing was when you weren't focused on the plot with the main character, like specifically the main character, because I know the story starts off in service to the main character in helping them with their curse. However, when we get to things like where it's talking about not the curse, but strengthening the relationships between characters, I really like those parts. So, like, when you're with Jamie in the coffee shop and they have to, like, do their best, you even have to do a dice roll to, like,
Yeah.
give you a drink you like. I thought that was great. Or, all those dream sequences. That's actually one of the biggest things I liked, but also one of my biggest letdowns because it shows so much of your relationship with Atlas. And I find that okay, I know I sound biased because it is Atlas Mothman. But I found those dream sequences to be very sweet and a great look into like the main character's own personal backstory, possibly of how they got more intertwined with the cryptid world,
Yeah.
combined with their relationship.
Yeah.
The letdown though is that most of it is text for that part. So
Right.
throughout the game, the visuals like are amazing and like it stands out so much. You notice like all the camera pans and like how the sprites moved, not like animated per se, but like the sprite itself would move across the screen. You notice that too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was really interesting. Because
Yeah.
usually visual novels, like, they just stay still, like, the entire time.
Yeah. So like I don't know if it's just me, but did you also get the feeling that it's kind of like sort of watching a show in a way?
Yeah, it was. Because, like, the
Yeah.
camera pans and stuff, too.
That was
'Cause,
so
like, that
cool.
that's very unique, I feel like, for a visual novel. Like, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that.
Yeah, me neither. So I thought that was super cool. And it wasn't even any unnecessary panning either. It would like often add comedic effect or it would go towards the character that you should be paying attention to the most and stuff
Right.
like that. And the visuals just for the game, like throughout the visual novel aspect and through the combat aspect, they're incredibly engaging. And I thought that was awesome, honestly. That's why I couldn't stop focusing on the game.
Yeah, it was very cool, like, just to look at. Like, I feel like I also did like the eye strain stuff, and well, I had more of a issue with the like text distortion. Like, I don't
Oh, like
know.
when glitching occurred on the screen?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't like just for the screen. Like when it was the entire screen glitching, I didn't really care. But like when it was the text that was glitching, then I was like, well, now I can't read it. I
I
don't
think
know.
I think
I know that's like
we should probably mention that this is added in on purpose for the effect for the
yeah,
story.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Uh
that is the eye strain.
it's like I know it's on purpose, and I know I'm probably like you're probably not supposed to read those words, right? Like you're not supposed to be able to see it. Like that's the point. But then I was like, well, the word is there and I want to know what it is.
You're so curious.
I just want to know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it wasn't even really that bad of eye strain, really. Like it was like the glitching effects and stuff. It wasn't like Oxenfree was way too much for me.
Mm.
The eye strain and the glitching effects and like the distortion. But this I think maybe because it's a little bit more cartoonish, it didn't feel like it was as much. And also maybe because like the colors are like already like bright and like kind of neon-ish. Because Oxenfree is like grayscale. It's like very
Yeah,
dark. And then
it has
it's
to have that
just
spooky vibe,
suddenly
right?
yeah. And then it's just suddenly glitchy. Like it's a horror aspect of the game, you know?
Yeah. Speaking of horror aspect, I think it's kind of worth mentioning that this has it too. Well,
Yeah.
not that much. Not throughout like the main parts of the visual novel, but so kind of back on the thing I was talking about with dream sequences. So while I was disappointed that because there's so much going on visually with the rest of the novel that I felt very happy with it, despite it being a visual novel. And usually visual novels are static, but this isn't. However, with the dream sequences, that makes it a letdown because in the dream sequences, it's mostly just text. And thing is,
Right.
the writing is very good. The narration, excellent. It's super descriptive with what you should be seeing. However, I then go, wait, I could be seeing something so cool and it's not on screen. So like
Right.
one of the things that what the horror aspect that I was talking about, one of the dreams is a nightmare. The very first dream actually. And it describes the most gut-wrenching monster and to the point where reading the description and then also hearing the distorted music that made me literally start inching away from my screen and side-eyeing it because I was like, I'm gonna see something terrifying, and then I never did. And while of course with those two elements it did a good job on being scary on its own, it could have really driven up the fear factor by actually putting visuals in there. Not everything, of course, like has to be shown, but I think they did a pretty good job with, say, how they showed Madhouse Mike's backstory, just a couple
Right.
images. If they did that with the dreams, I think that would have been really great. We could have been super terrified in that nightmare, and then get those absolutely adorable moments with the main character and Atlas, and you get to see
Right.
it. It'll mean more to you.
I feel like maybe that could be added later because some of those images in chapter 1 in like the second chapter are not
Unfinished.
colored. Yeah, they're not finished. So
Yeah.
maybe they could add those like later since they already have the material. They would just need to make the images and put them in the game, right? It
Yeah.
would be pretty easy to add that after. I feel
Yeah,
like.
I think they'd be able to add that after. I didn't know though if they would add it at all because the way the dream sequences are. Because when you see the images that are have yet to be added in, they are there and like
Right.
drawn. But with the dream sequences, it's only text is the problem. So that's why
Yeah.
you can't really tell if it's supposed to have imagery or not.
And like the little characters in the bottom of the screen too.
Yeah, it's mostly just the background and the little characters that are there for your visuals. But thing is, that's just to show like the background just to show the general setting, and the little characters are just to show who's talking. However, what do you mean I can't see the crazy monster? What do you mean I can't
Right.
see Atlas and the main character together as kids?
Like the storytelling and stuff in this game is really really good though. Like it doesn't
Oh yeah.
I don't know if it took away that much for me to not see the dreams, but also like I don't know. Like it would have been cool, but I don't know if I really would think that much about it if I saw it, you know? Like
Yeah.
more.
The writing, yeah, my thing is that the writing is so good that I feel like I miss out a little when I can't see it because of how much the game stands out visually in every other aspect. Like
Yeah.
in the visual novel and in combat and in like say Madhouse Mike's backstory. So that's why I was like, oh, I like maybe it's because the game had raised my expectations. And then we
Yeah.
get to a dream sequence that's during a later part of the game is my thing.
I mean, because this
Yeah.
game is really, really detailed. Like,
Yes,
the music
really.
changes and stuff. I really love the music. And, like, I like how it shows what the song is at the top of the screen every time
Yeah.
it changes.
I feel like every soundtrack or every track they add in, it like really fits the vibe. And then you also notice those times where like say they have those like quick changes, but for the sake of enhancing the vibe of the scene, like say for comedic effect where they cut off the music, or for comedic effect when they add in battle music during a normal visual novel scene. You notice that too, right?
Yeah, I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah, it's just like a lot of detail goes into every aspect of this game. I thought that was great.
Yeah, the music was actually my favorite part of the game because of just how like detailed it was whenever there was music and when there wasn't music. Like it felt like the music like on its own could have told the story, really. What was your favorite part?
I think my favorite part would for sure be the combat because, well, I really like fighting.
Oh,
I know, no. Hey, any employers, hey, I know my digital footprint. Hear me out. The combat in this game is awesome. So as someone who like got into D&D, my thing is that I never had friends to play with, like, or friends who were available. So I would always listen, and that's how I learned the rules in the combat system. So I always wanted to play a tabletop role-playing game, and this gives you that experience. This gives a really solid tabletop role-play gaming experience. The combat system is awesome. It's not a copy of any system that I'm familiar with. It has some very unique core elements, and it's complex. It's actually more complex, in my opinion, compared to D&D. But however, it's not difficult to understand. It's not over-cluttered or anything. You remember everything, and everything, like, has to be taken into account. You have to strategize. And not only are the mechanics awesome, during the combat, the visuals are really pumping. It's like moving around. You gotta pay attention because you can't not pay attention when something looks that cool. And then the music, it's so iconic too. It really pumps you up. I got so energized and like so sucked into the combat that I was like doing battle strategy, and then I'd cuss out the characters whenever I won because screw you, Mike, I win. You thought you could cheat me? You thought you could cheat me? Anyway. But yeah, it really hypes you up. And I also liked how it's not too difficult. So I was on the default difficulty. And even though I had a pair of dice that I didn't like, I thought that the dice were, at least the snake eye dice, were designed pretty balanced because even though you get mostly ones, you still get a lot of karma. And it did make things harder, but like I found the game to be pretty forgiving, and like, you know, it's super forgiving that characters don't die permanently. There's that too. Yeah, so like I'm very grateful for that because I would have a lot of people gone. But yeah, I'm glad I was able to get through my battles and everything.
What was your least favorite part then?
Number one is that I haven't dated Atlas yet. I wrote that description myself before I left, and I explicitly chose this game to go on a date with Atlas. Listen, in my defense, he's my type. I'm not saying my type is monsters, but I am saying he's intensely attractive. And I'm not going to specify whether it's visually, personality-wise, or both. But yeah, I hope to romance him soon, especially since, like, I mean, I was partially satisfied in the building of their relationship through the dream sequences. However, that's not a date.
That's true.
My other least favorite thing was just the dice, really. Like so even though I did talk a lot about like how I was let down with the dream sequences, I am a very visually oriented person, so that is probably just something on my part. While I had mid expectations for the game, they increased exponentially. So that's why the dream sequences were a letdown, but I'm pretty sure that could be easily fixed. Like, but the thing that I had the biggest gripes with as I played throughout the entire thing were just the dice. It's not that like the system itself is broken, it's that I didn't know I could change those dice, and that like I could have had easier dice to work with.
Yeah. I think my least favorite part was chapter 0, because I played this game over 2 days, and I played chapter 0 the first day, and I didn't want to continue. And then I forced myself to go back and play chapter 1 the next day, and I was like, I love this game so much more. And I guess I could have been just having a bad day when I played chapter 0, but because it felt so slow paced to me, I didn't want to play anymore. And like I had to like make myself continue after chapter 0. Because I felt like there was like no, like, I think partly because I was coming from a place where it was a dating sim. And then also I don't really, like, I didn't really understand the game yet. And I guess, like, we had you don't meet August, like, really until chapter 1. Like, you don't really get to talk to him at all. Like, he's kind of not there in chapter 0. And then I don't know, maybe if I had known the dateables before, or like, I don't know, like I would have known what to look forward to. I feel like it was just really, really slow paced in chapter 0, and then it picks up in chapter 1, which is great. And chapter 0 is kind of like you said, it's like a prologue. So maybe I expected too much from chapter 0. I don't know.
Was it you were hoping to maybe get to the, not necessarily romantic, because like when you have that hangout with Madhouse Mike, it's of course clearly more so, okay, depending on your dialogue options, it could be more so building a friendship, but like you were hoping to maybe get to those like more intimate, like relationship building scenes and aspects sooner. Is that what you're hoping for?
Maybe. Cause I don't know. I feel like I was more interested in Jamie, and then I wasn't even interested in August until the kid. So like I feel like maybe like I just wasn't invested in the characters that much, because I think maybe it was focused a lot on Atlas and Madhouse Mike.
Oh yeah, because chapter 0 is primarily about like,
right,
because it's not necessarily about the relationship, it's about the plot of the story, right?
Yeah. Like I feel like it's focused on them, and it doesn't really, there's no chance to get to know any of the other characters, because it's like mostly about like trying to like find out what the curse is, right? And then also Atlas's like obsession with Madhouse Mike's podcast or radio show or whatever.
Yeah, I actually, so while I do understand the relationship bits, like not being earlier on, it is something that I'd like to say where I'd absolutely love to see more of those, because those were some of my favorite parts of the game. So I am looking forward to seeing more of those, especially, you know, a date with the Mothman.
Okay.
Listen, you know why I'm here, okay?
I do. Yeah,
you knew what we both signed up for.
I did. That's true.
And you're still disappointed anyway. I am just that good. I'm just that amazing.
Mm-hmm. Well, would you? I think you would recommend this game, wouldn't you?
No, I want the Mothman for me and me only. No, I'm kidding. I absolutely recommend the game. So I found it so intensely fun. Like, cause after I took those initial notes, like I was actually supposed to take more, but then like after the first battle, I was like, oh, I can't stop playing. So, yeah, it's super engaging, and I highly recommend it to people who are cryptid enthusiasts, tabletop roleplay game enthusiasts, for anyone who's into a supernatural mystery plot. And there's so much detail going into the sound, visuals. The writing is amazing for both the narrative and the dialogue. And like, because of that, it's not only the combat that's interesting, because the combat did suck me in, but the visual novel got me to stay. And so basically every part of this game is just so well done. There's so much care that clearly went into it. It's like literally being part of an interactive TV show. It's fun. It's really fun. Still happy about the dice. But like, because the little problems that I have are obviously things that are super minor in comparison to the things that I really like about the game.
Yeah, I feel like my issues with the game were also super minor. Like, I got over my like dislike at the beginning because it was slow paced because of chapter 1. So like really it wasn't I definitely recommend the game. Like it's not a bad game. It's a very good game. It's very detailed. There's a lot of little things that are interesting. You learn a lot about the characters through like the battles and like just the plot in general. It's well written, the visuals are good, the music is good. Like everything about this game is really good. I just wouldn't go into it thinking that it is a like a dating sim because it's not, you know?
Yeah, that even though it's called Cryptid Crush, I think that as it is now, because you don't really get into any romancing yet, I would say maybe wait. Because if
Right.
you're gonna go into this going, I'm gonna go on a date. No, you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're literally only here for a date, then why? But you know, I can't, I can't imagine who would only be here for a date. But
Mm-hmm.
but like, there's so many good things about the game. Like if you're here for the dating sim, that's gonna be secondary. But
Yeah.
the core of the game, like with it being story driven and then having an awesome combat system to go with it, and like they even bleed into each other. You've got story in the combat. For some reason, you got combat in the story, which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Like focus on those for now, because you're not gonna go on a date yet. You are gonna, of course, build your relationships with the characters. That's awesome. I love that so much. But you know, you're not going on a date yet. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah. What did you rate the game?
I'm rating it 9.5. Still got my gripes.
Why did you change your rating?
Well, because now the more that so originally it was a 9, and that was because I don't do decimals, and I think about and it was kind of like the one point I took off was taking into account the lack of like visuals in the dream sequences, and then like that dice roll thing. But they're so minor, and they're like easily changeable. So that's why I was like, it doesn't really matter that much. I can't erase them, like erase them from my score, because they were inherently things that I disliked. But it's not that big to me. That's why I just made it 9.5 instead of 9.
Yeah. Yeah. I also changed my original score. I originally gave this a 7. But I changed it up to an 8 because I think that with like when this game is finished, it'll be really, really good. Like there's no way that it'll be a bad game when this game is done.
They already proved it's super good, and it's only gonna keep going.
Like I feel like it's unfair to judge it on being unfinished. Like the things that I didn't like about the game, I feel like can be easily fixed, and like I also feel like chapter 0 won't feel so slow for someone who knows how to play tabletop roleplay games and someone who isn't there for a dating sim. And I think I just went into it like in the wrong headspace, So I don't think this game is like a 7. I think it at least deserves an 8. Our final rating of the game would be an 8.75 tokens out of 10. Great job, Drowsy Drake Studios. Thank you guys for joining me on this episode of Indie House, and thanks Nikole for coming back and joining me today. And you have any last words?
Thank you for inviting me on. I was very excited to hear, like, hey, do you want to play? And I was like, yeah, sure. Oh my god, date with Mothman. Listen, I'm pretty single-minded. But yeah, thank you for having me on. This game was a blast. Like, if it weren't for this episode, I wouldn't have found the time to get into it. And then now I am waiting with bated breath for more updates, because this game is awesome. I'm not waiting for a date, I swear. Like, it's not just a date that I'm waiting for. I really, really liked playing this game. And so my favorite part, like I said, was the combat. I wanna fight more. I wanna kick more I want to kick more asses. I want to shed blood. I can't wait. And then the story is also good, so I want to know what happens next. Really excited.
Do you want to shout out your socials?
Yes. All of my handles are at Andromeda. However you think that is spelled, you are wrong, and you should probably reference Joycelyn's title.
Or the links in the description.
Yes.
Be sure to rate the episode and let me know your thoughts. I've got a Discord server called Indie House Official, which would be a great place to give your feedback and talk to me, my collaborators, or other listeners of the show. If you have any indie game suggestions, feel free to comment below or hit me up at indiehouse_pod on Twitter or Instagram using the hashtag IndieHouseGaming. And if you would like to support the podcast and get some cool extra content, you can find the Patreon in the card. Catch us next week on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. See y'all on the next level. Bye!